What's up, everyone? Welcome into the Week 13 Fantasy Football Recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, joined as always by my co-host, John Lou Garofalo and G-Men Jay. What's up, boys?
What up?
What's happening? Got some good football on today, I got to say. It's been a very exciting week.
It has been. And Jay, you're rocking a new jersey down there. You got some new NFL swag on today.
Yeah, a little Black Friday special. I was like, you know what? Joe Burrow helped me win a championship last year. I think I should honor him by buying a jersey. So I just decided to go for it.
I'm sure he's ever so honored by that, Jay. Have you sent him a letter?
He's told me. I sent him a DM with a picture of it, just the jersey and nothing else. Hasn't responded yet, though. I'm still waiting. If he doesn't how many days do I need to wait before I reach back out?
3 hours, and then you send him another one.
Not even a full day.
Good call. Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on.
He is an aficionado of Jersey Pooh Bear shots. That's his number one thing. So, guys, send Joe Burrow all of your Jersey Pooh Bear shots. He's going to love all of them. Jay, you are 100% right. We've had some exciting football today, and we're going to break down all of that for you. And we got some people in the chat here hanging out with us today. Grim fan in here saying, Bills win. I survive another week. Our friend Grim still alive through 13 weeks in the Survivor League. And Grim, we're going to answer this in a second. I want to make sure we get time to help you out with your picks for next week. We got Gabe in here. What's up, Gabe? Gabe saying Hurts is my QB that's going to take me all the way.
All the way. Bump, 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 bump.
He just might, as JL just so eloquently saying. He really just might. Jalen Hurts.
That's beautiful.
Is Jalen Hurts the quarterback you want the most on your fantasy team down the stretch here? Or is there another quarterback you would prefer to have rest of the season?
Oh, man. I think he's number one. I'm struggling to think of someone who'd be above him.
I still think I'd rather go Mahomes. I know he doesn't have the rushing upside, but he's just got the passing upside to just go absolutely nuclear. Don't get me wrong. I would be perfectly fine with Jalen Hurts, but I think I still ever so slightly would rather have Mahomes.
Man, but Gabe, you're in a good spot right there, sitting with Hurts as your fantasy quarterback as we head into the playoffs. I know a lot of people would be envious. The Derek Carr managers, the Kirk Cousins managers, hell, even the Kyler Murray managers are probably sitting over there envious of the quarterback you're rolling out there. We got Albert in here saying, hello, everyone. What's up, Albert? Welcome in. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. And DJ in the chat. Hello, DJ. And Slick Vic with the hello. Hello, Slick Vic. Welcome.
Hi, Mom.
And we love moms here. DJ said Josh Allen over those guys. I would say Josh Allen, but with the injury that he's been dealing with, I don't know if I want him over Hurts and Mahomes. Don't get me wrong. He's still a top tier guy, but he's not over those guys for me the rest of the season.
I'm with you, Simon.
Just can't quite do it. Now, that's not an indictment on Josh Allen. Don't hear what I'm not saying.
I'm hearing everything you're not saying.
We all heard what you're not saying.
That's a lot of things I didn't say, JL. You must be really busy up there.
You are a dirty boy, let me just say.
Guys, we're going to get into these games. Before we do that, though, a couple reminders. First and foremost, if you like what we're doing here, go ahead and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to FanDuel on YouTube. Then head on over, check them out on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They're at FanDuel on all of those platforms. You're going to make sure you're following as we head into the fantasy postseason. Then if you enjoy what we're doing here, you want to see some more of our handsome faces, head on over to our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy and hit that subscribe button. Notification bell will make sure you don't miss any of the stuff that we are putting out over there. Now, guys, I wanted to hit this question from Grim. The Bills did win this week, but now the options he's got left going into week 14 are the Buccaneers, the Browns, the Panthers, and the Dolphins as the teams that he has left. Are there any of those that stand out if we look at these week 14 matchups? I can go ahead and pull those up, but any teams that immediately jump out to you guys?
Right here, the Panthers are at the Seahawks. The Buccaneers are at the 49ers. The Browns are at the Bengals. And the Dolphins, Dolphins are at the Chargers. That is some tough games. There's no way I could go with the Panthers.
I think the only one that I'm comfortable playing is the Dolphins at the Chargers. The Chargers, I feel like we still have this idea in our head that they're a good team, but they're not. Like they have not been good on the field this season. Like I feel like even going into this week, there was this idea that they could still make a late season push and like figure it out at the end. I don't know if this Chargers team is figuring it out. So I'm going to roll with the Dolphins over the Chargers, even with the struggles we're seeing from them today. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
A call for me as well.
I think that is fair. That is a tricky one. What are the other options there that he has?
Panthers at Seahawks, Browns at Bengals, and then Bucks at 49ers.
Bucks at 49ers. Dolphins. Oh, yeah. I think that does make the most sense.
It's rough. Those other options are not good for you, even if you got some good teams left right there.
Only other one I may consider would be Tampa Bay because Jimmy G got hurt. We don't know if he's going to play next week, but I would still lean the Dolphins.
DK Metcalf just got another touchdown, by the way. That dude is having a game.
Metcalf.
He has to be one of the best values in fantasy because nobody wanted him with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. I mean, he has to be. I'm going to look it up. I mean, he's been phenomenal all year long.
And especially after last season, which people viewed as disappointing, even though he had 12 receiving touchdowns, right? I know they were concentrated. There was one game with a ton of them in there. But he did well last year. Then he comes in this year as Geno Smith. Nobody wants him. He's getting knocked down boards. People were disappointed in him last year. You're right, Jay. We'll have to do a season in review and check out just how late he was going and what a value that ended up being. We have two questions.
A quick update from the Kansas City game. Harrison Butker just missed what would have been the game-tying field goal with 3 minutes left. So the Bengals have the ball up 3 with 3 minutes left.
Woo-hoo! Maria, you're saying evening, fellas. What's up, Maria? Welcome in. And nice Bagels jersey, Jay.
It is a nice Bagels jersey.
It's an everything Bagels jersey.
It's an everything Bagels jersey. Not the one with cream cheese, though. No cream cheese on that one. The question that we had in here from Grim Fan, we're going to hit on these games a little bit later, but I did want to address these. It's two of the biggest injuries in today's games. Lamar Jackson going down. What Grim wants to know is, does Brock Purdy or Tyler Huntley have any value as a replacement, or should he keep his claim in for Jared Goff? So, JL, if you're in this situation, Lamar Jackson's your quarterback. You were eyeing Jared Goff on the waiver wire. Are you still rolling with Jared Goff, or are you trying to pick up Purdy or Huntley?
I'm sticking with Jared Goff. Lamar Jackson, all we know right now is that it's likely not a season-ending injury. There'll be more news on Monday when they do run some more tests. We'll get some more information probably Monday afternoon or so. Tyler Huntley is a little bit interesting just because of the rushing upside. He is a quarterback that is based very similarly off of Lamar Jackson. He's got a similar type of profile, and so he's got some of that rushing upside, but he is not as good of a passer as we saw today against that Broncos defense. So Goff is still the number one out of these three guys here.
I'm with you. And 3 of his next 4 matchups, like if Lamar Jackson is going to miss extended time, you've got some good matchups with Jared Goff. He's got the Vikings next week. We've seen multiple teams torch them through the air. The Jets are the toughest matchup in this stretch. But then he's got the Panthers and the Bears after that. So I am not scared off of Jared Goff at all. These are games where the Lions should stay competitive. And we've seen Jared Goff have some big games so far this year. On the other side, another injury, Kenneth Walker, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, injured. Jay, would you be looking at Akers, Pacheco, Zonovan Knight, or Latavius Murray, or is your interest in the direct backup in DJ Dallas there in Seattle?
I'm that interested in DJ Dallas unless you're just absolutely desperate for running back. I would much rather have Pacheco, any of these. What were the other names that you saw? Pacheco,
The options were
You
Pacheco,
guys hear me?
Akers, Zonovan Knight, or Latavius Murray were the other options.
Sound of Night sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think Jay, there's a lot of lag going on. We'll get that figured out, get him going. JL, are you prioritizing DJ Dallas or one of these other players?
Pacheco, I think over DJ Dallas. I would go Knight even over probably DJ Dallas until we get some more information on Kenneth Walker here.
Yeah, and Pacheco's definitely above him for me as well. DJ Dallas, you can add him as a speculative ad, but I prefer most of those guys you listed down there over DJ Dallas as the direct ad right there. Guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the preview of tonight's Sunday night football game while we're waiting for these 4 p.m. games to end up. Tonight, we've got the Indianapolis Colts facing off at the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites at home here, and that seems just about right. It seems like they should be 10.5-point favorites against the Jeff Saturday-led Colts. JL, before we get into the individual fantasy players, do you think the Colts have any chance to win this game?
I think the Colts, yeah, of course they have a chance to win this game.
Yeah.
It's an NFL game. Anybody can win. Do I think that it's likely? It's the most likely outcome? Absolutely not. I think that Dallas Cowboys will most likely win this game. I do think should be interesting. The Colts defense has been playing very well recently, shutting down a lot of passing game in a lot of teams. So it'll be interesting to see how CeeDee Lamb and those other passing options fare against Indianapolis here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the perfect segue into talking about these Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver that you're obviously starting. But Jay, outside of CeeDee Lamb, are there any other receiving options for the Dallas Cowboys that you're plugging into your fantasy lineups tonight?
I think Dalton Schultz has pretty much locked himself in. He's back as a every week starter. He's not necessarily somebody who's in that upper echelon, but you're comfortable starting him. And Michael Gallup has turned it on here lately. He's not somebody that I'm forcing into my lineup, but if you need somebody who, could catch a touchdown, should be decently involved in the offense, I think you could do a lot worse than Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I'm not trying to start him, but I do think you can plug him in. Jail, what heat check, Michael Gallup?
Yeah, Michael Gallup. I'm with you guys. I'm not excited to start him this week. I think he's most likely going to end up maybe low end wide receiver 3.
The biggest question I think for the Dallas Cowboys though comes in their running game. Is it Tony Pollard or is it Ezekiel Elliott? JL, you have to pick one of those two guys to plug into your lineups tonight. Who are you playing? Is it Pollard or is it Elliott, who's been coming on strong lately?
He has been coming on strong lately, but it is Ezekiel Elliott for me. I think he'll still see that 60-40 split, and Ezekiel Elliott's been getting a decent amount of receiving work, so I'll go with him.
What about you, Jay? Are you rolling Elliott as well, or are you on the Pollard side here?
I'm on the Pollard side. He looks better. He's that more usage in the passing game. Zeke's been bailed out by getting, which is very positive, getting the red zone touches and getting the touchdowns. But if he wasn't getting those, Pollard has a much safer floor, and I think just as high of an upside.
Man, I think they're both great starts. They're both like mid to high end RB2s. I do think I would roll Zeke out there, though. It seems like they want him in those like high important situations, those touchdown situations, the third downs, the ones where it's a high impact situation. They put Ezekiel Elliott out on the field. So I'm going to roll with that guy. But Tony Pollard's a perfectly fine start as well.
Yep. Happy with either of them.
Absolutely. On the other side of the ball, Matt Ryan put up a real freaking stinker last week. He seemed like a slam dunk start, and then he just stunk all over the field. Jay, does Matt Ryan belong on the waiver wire for the rest of the season, or is he a guy that you think has some upside? Because we've seen him get it done through the air. The dude can have a 300-yard game out of nowhere.
If it's one QB, there's no question he's on the waiver wire. Superflex, I don't think any starting quarterback should be on the waiver wire. If it's in the right matchup, even with a bad game last week, you could do a lot worse than Matt Ryan indoors. He does have some weapons. I think that if you're in a tough spot, he's somebody you can plug in with the matchups right.
Absolutely. I'm with you, Jay. In a one quarterback league, you've got better options. Jared Goff is probably out there on their waiver wire, like we talked about previously. You can go pick up Jared Goff. Hell, Marcus Mariota. And Marcus Mariota, like he's good for 60, 70 rush yards. I'd rather roll Marcus Mariota out there most games. But it's tough sledding. Now, his receiving options suffered last week because of that as well. Michael Pittman, I think, is a start. If you've got him on your team, you're most likely starting Michael Pittman. But Paris Campbell, who had been a darling of Matt Ryan and his coaching staff, disappointed last week. JL, are you expecting a bounce back game for Paris Campbell against this Dallas secondary?
Absolutely not. Dallas secondary isn't the best, but they're about middle of the pack. But they have some all stars there. Trayvon Diggs, fantastic, and Paris Campbell he hasn't been consistent. He hasn't been consistent. I think Michael Pittman will get his yardage. He'll get his opportunities in this game. Paris Campbell, I think it is much less of a guaranteed thing. So I'm benching him if I can.
What about you, Jay? Are you benching Paris Campbell, or do you think there's some upside for him in this game?
I'm a little more optimistic than JL, but I agree that he does belong on the bench. Matt Ryan has seemed to like him this year. He's targeted him a ton, but with as bad as it was last week, and I'm really not expecting much better this week from Matt Ryan. Outside of the most desperate situations, I don't want to start Paris Campbell.
And Jonathan Taylor, he's in your lineups. You just play Jonathan Taylor every single week. There's not much that needs to be said about that guy. He is a monster. Jay, unfortunately, it's that time with a full slate of football games. There's going to be injuries. We got to go over them as we break down the fantasy landscape. You want to give us a rundown of the injuries that did take place in today's games?
Yeah, today was not a very good day, unfortunately. Trevor Lawrence, he got tackled. His leg and his knee got twisted, but he did return to the game, which I don't know if you saw it, JL, but it looked like it could have been season-ending. I mean, torn MCL, ACL. It looked bad, but then old T-Law came back out there and he, was run. I mean, I think the first drive he came back, he rushed the ball like 3 times, so there's no long-term concern for T-Law. Jalen Waddle also hurt his leg. But he was somebody who did return to the game, so I don't think there's any long-term concern there. Now, for players that did not return, Treylon Burks, he took a big hit on a touchdown catch. He did not return. He was diagnosed with a concussion. So hopefully not any long-term repercussions from that. But,
bad hit.
And man, I don't know how he hung on to that ball. And I don't think it was a dirty hit or anything. It was just one of those, bang plays. It was tough.
Just got lit up in the end zone.
I wouldn't expect him to be back next week, the week after, who knows? But, it's so hard to gauge with a concussion. Jimmy G had an ankle injury, he had to be carted back to the locker room, did not return. So no word on that last that I checked, and it did not look good, though. Same thing for Kenneth Walker. While he did go back to the locker room under his own power, left the game with an ankle injury, was quickly ruled out, did not come back. Lamar Jackson left the game with a knee injury. Now, I didn't see anything. There was 2 potential plays, where he got tackled kind of hard. As you said, JL, before we hopped on here, it did sound like they don't think it's a season-ending injury, but we don't have any word as if to, how many games he might miss. We'll have to wait for the next few days to see if that's the case. And then Hayden Hurst also left the game, the Cincinnati and Kansas City game, with a calf injury. Not necessarily as high impact as the other guys, but he's kind of developed into an every week starter if you stream tight ends.
Keep your eyes on those players. We'll hopefully get some more positive news about them as the week progresses. But if not, it's going to be another crazy waiver wire week as we approach the fantasy playoffs. We had some questions in here before we get into these 1 p.m. games, guys. Tom in here wanted to know, in half PPR, would you give Devontae Adams and Jeff Wilson for Alvin Kamara and CeeDee Lamb? JL, would you be willing to make this trade, Devontae Adams and Jeff Wilson, for Alvin Kamara and CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, man. No, I mean, I just wouldn't do this trade. I don't think this makes your team crazy amount better. It's kind of crazy. We're talking Jeff Wilson, might be a similar type of level to Alvin Kamara. But I would probably just stick with whichever side that you have. It's just too much of a lateral move.
JL, I'm so glad you said it first, because I was going to say Alvin Kamara and Jeff Wilson are in the same tier as for me rest of season, like with what we've been seeing from each of them. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will prefer Alvin Kamara above Jeff Wilson rest of season, but it's not this massive upgrade at the running back position that you would have thought this was going to be. And then it is a clear downgrade for me from Devontae Adams to CeeDee Lamb. Don't get me wrong. I love CeeDee Lamb, but Devontae Adams is in that upper echelon of wide receivers. I'm staying put if I'm you, Tom. I'm not making that move. Jay Gabe in here earlier was telling us Jalen Hurts was taking him to the promised land. Well, the rest of his team is Saquon Barkley, then Rashad White at running back with Fournette on the back burner, Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown at at wide receiver, then TJ Hawkinson at tight end, Eagles D, and Tyler Bass. What do you think of this team, Jay? You think this is a championship caliber team?
Yeah, I think they should go ahead and whatever your league trophy is, whether it's a trophy, a belt, a ring, or something, go ahead and get your name engraved on it because there's no way you're losing with a team like that.
Nah, I'm with you. DJ wanted to know, do you think the Jelani Woods bet is good tonight? So Jelani Woods is on the FanDuel Sportsbook at plus 700 for an anytime touchdown score tonight. Jay, would you be sprinkling anything on that? Jelani Woods, tight end for the Indianapolis Colts.
I'd throw some Coles cash on that. I think that he was involved last week, and it is an indoor. Even though they're away, it's indoors in Dallas. You could definitely see a situation, especially to either they keep up with the Cowboys and they're going to be throwing the ball, or Dallas goes up big. There's no scenario where the Colts go up big and they have to run the ball. So yeah, I think it's worth the shot.
I'm probably staying away. I don't have any trust for the receiving options.
I'm not saying go big,
like a lottery.
But yeah, that's why you get, scared money don't make money. You got to throw some on the
I'm not saying go big, but scared money don't make money.
No, throw $20 on it plus 700.
I'm gonna put my scared money on someone not named Jelani Woods. I think is where my scared money is gonna go. But
it hasn't been used in the red zone as much, which is just a little bit concerning. But it's like most tight ends in that tight end glob, they could get a touchdown. He could absolutely get a touchdown tonight.
Plus 700 for a tight end glob touchdown. You could do a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
Jeb in here. What's up, Jeb? Jeb wanted to know Michael Pittman or Rashad White in the flex. That is a tough one. JL, where are you going here? Michael Pittman playing tonight against the Cowboys. You've already talked about that secondary being a little bit scary. And then Rashad White doesn't have the easiest matchup in the world either, going up against the New Orleans Saints tomorrow.
That's true. Not the easiest matchup against the Saints, but I'm still going to go Rashad White. It's unlikely Leonard Fournette's going to be playing in this. Rashad White has been the guy, and he looks awesome. Michael Pittman, he has been decent, quietly decent, but at the same time, we could see Dallas shut this Colts passing game down tonight. So I'd rather go White with the safer upside on running back.
What about you, Jay? Because I feel like this is a close one.
Yeah, it is definitely close, and I agree with JL. I lean Rashad White. Everything he said, and also the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line is banged up. So I would expect Rashad White to still be involved in the passing game, even more so, Tom Brady having to dump it off because of the pressure. Tom Brady's obviously not going to rush the ball. So yeah, I'm going to go Rashad White. I think he's got a higher floor and a similar upside.
We got Just Killer in here saying hello. Hello, Just Killer.
Up,
welcome
Killer?
in, my
Good
friend.
evening.
You are just in time to talk about the game of the week.
Game of the week.
The Baltimore Ravens took down the Denver Broncos 10-9 in the game of the week. The fantasy showdown we all expected.
This game was boring.
It was.
I was looking at the Denver Broncos, their season so far, and they've hit the under on like every game but 3. There are 3 games where they've hit the over, according to PFF, which is just wild.
You're telling me 19 points wasn't on the over? This line wasn't set at 17?
This line did not hit the over. The total was set at 40 for this game. Of course, we had it under, but Denver did cover the spread here, which was at 9 points. 9 points, which is it's pretty impressive. Lamar Jackson went down very early on with a knee injury. Tyler Huntley filling in for him. But Tyler Huntley was not able to really keep up against this Denver Broncos defense. This Denver Broncos defense is good, guys.
Phenomenal.
They're fantastic. As much shit as the Broncos have been getting this year, their defense has been a decent bright spot here. So Tyler Huntley, 27 completions on 32 attempts, 187 yards, no touchdowns, no passing touchdowns in this game. He threw at least one interception, exactly one interception, not at least one interception. Decent fantasy game, though, and that's, of course, because Tyler Huntley does rushing. He loves rushing. 16.58 fantasy points. This is a solid option if you somehow played Tyler Huntley. Probably not. His receiving options here, Demarcus Robinson, Devin Duvernay, the top receiving options on this team. Demarcus Robinson was the receiving leader, finishing with 11.1 fantasy points, 7 receptions on 8 targets, 41 yards. And then Devin Duvernay didn't have a bad game either. 6 receptions on 6 targets, 34 yards, 10.3 fantasy points. So if you flex either of these guys, you are probably pretty happy. Mark Andrews had 9.4 fantasy points. Targeted 7 times. We had 4 receptions for 53 yards. Overall, this Baltimore offense defense was just not really moving too much. Moving on to the Denver side of this, Broncos, man, the Broncos, they somehow found a way to lose. Somehow found a way to lose 3 field goals in this game. The Russell Wilson, he only passed 22 times. He was decent when he did pass. They just didn't pass enough. Russell Wilson is still just not there. Did you guys see anything noteworthy from Russell Wilson in this game that stood out to you? Are you hopeful at all that Russell Wilson can turn around the rest of the season?
You see a play or two where he turns into scramble man, right? Like every game you see a play or two where we get like old school scramble man Russell Wilson out there and it looks like, oh, he's got it. And then the very next play, it's like, oh, that was to his feet. Oh, he didn't see the edge rusher coming in that's about to hit him. Like something is off. It's still there. Like I know it's still there, but I've got no hope that we're going to see it consistently because it's what we've been seeing all season. You see little flashes, you see little bits. Maybe this game was better than some, but still, you're not writing home about 189 yards and no touchdowns.
Right. No, I'm with you, Simon. I'm with you. I'm not super hopeful he'll be able to turn it around. Latavius Murray in this game, he had decent 17 carries, 47 yards, no touchdowns, 10.10 or 10.1 fantasy points. Jay, where does Latavius Murray stack up rest of the season in your rankings?
I mean, back end RB2 just because of the volume that he's getting. This offense has not looked good, like you said. I mean, they couldn't score a touchdown today against a banged up Baltimore defense. You like to see that he's using the passing game as well. 4 targets, 17 carries, but outside, more of a back end RB2, a flex play, not somebody that I'm excited to get in my lineup. More of a, if I need a warm body to throw in, then willing to put him in there.
Hot. That's hot.
I mean, give me Deonta Foreman over him rest of season. Give me Brian Robinson over him rest of season. Give me
Jerick McKinnon.
No, I'll take Latavius Murray over Jerick McKinnon, but it is very close right there. McKinnon's got that third down role locked up with the Chiefs. It's his. No one's taking
better offense too.
Much better offense, man. There's some funny Jerick McKinnon plays this game. We'll get to that in a bit, but don't get sidetracked, JL. Don't get sidetracked.
Get sidetracked.
What about Zonovan Knight? Are you taking Latavius Murray or Zonovan Knight rest of the season?
Latavius Murray. I'll take Latavius Murray over Bam Knight. I don't have faith in him to maintain a full role in that backfield. They've got 3 competent backs in him, Ty Johnson and James Robinson. While this Broncos situation is messy, they've had a little bit more time to work it out, to figure out how it's going to look. And it looks like Latavius Murray has come out on top. So I've just got the upside's low, but the trust is there that he's going to see the work. So I'll roll Latavius Murray.
Yeah, I'm with you, Simon. I'm with you. Now, Courtland Sutton also went down with an injury this game. He had 1 target before going down with a hamstring injury. Kendall Hinton might be someone to keep an eye on, depending on how bad this hamstring injury is. We'll have to see what the sort of news comes out this week. Jerry Jeudy was the next, receiving option here. 4 receptions, 4 targets, 10.5 fantasy points in this game. It's pretty decent, return for Jerry Jeudy in this offense where only passing 22 times, right? That's you're probably happy about that if you had to start Jerry Jeudy this year. But I think the main storyline in this Denver offense is, Simon, you're going to be happy about this. It's Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich was the receiving leader on this Denver Broncos offense. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 85 yards. Some of those are beautiful. He had some beautiful catches in this game. 14.5 fantasy points. Is Dulcich... is he making a case to come out of the tight end glob for you guys?
He's done everything in his power to escape the tight end glob. It's this Denver Broncos offense that's holding him back from fully escaping that glob. If this offense was scoring more than 15 points a game, like if he had any real touchdown upside on a weekly basis, dude would be fully out of the glob because he's getting the volume. And like he's been a reliable receiving option for Russell Wilson under center. But this offense is just not good enough for a tight end to escape the tight end glob. He's still in there, but his talent and everything we're seeing, it makes me hopeful for him in the future. Like this dude's a star.
Where would Greg Dulcich be finishing if he was, say, on the Bills? What do you think, Jay?
I mean, I think he'd be locked in top 10 every week starter on the Bills. Even, Josh Allen doesn't traditionally target the tight end a ton, but I mean, he can actually throw touchdowns. He can actually play football, unlike Russell Wilson. Simon, I think you summed it up perfectly. Dulcich has looked great. But this offense has just been terrible. Even though he had a big game this week before 3 points, week before that 7 points, week before that 2.1. And it's not because of him. When Russell Wilson gets him involved, he looks phenomenal, but it's just this offense is just so bad.
What do you think, Simon? What if Greg Dulcich was on a much better team? What would he be for you? Top 10 is a pretty cool take. So
heaven, it would be it would be just pure joy. I would start questioning reality if I woke up tomorrow and Greg Dulcich was on the Bills, because it would be everything I wished for. That being said, you made the point. I'm not sure how he would fit into this offense. I think he benefits here. Either Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy has been injured for the majority of the season, right? He's played well with them on the field, but he's not competing with Stephon Diggs. He's not competing with Gabriel Davis for targets either. He would likely be – I'm looking at the names up there. I'd have Travis Kelce ahead of him. I'd have Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson, Dallas Goedert ahead of him, Freiermuth ahead of him, Kittle ahead of him. And then I think it would be Greg Dulcich. So that puts him at 7. That puts him at tight end 7 for me if he was on a better team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I really don't think there's too much else that we need to hit on in this game. 10-9 means generally a pretty non-impactful fantasy game whenever there was only one touchdown scored, and it was at the very end of that game. But we're going to move on to a slightly more exciting game here. The Green Bay-Chicago game. Chicago went up but couldn't hold on to the lead, and the Packers took it home 28-19.
Say what you want about Aaron Rodgers, but he does continue to own the Chicago Bears. 28-19. Like Simon said, the Bears got off to a really hot start, but the Packers turned it on in the second half. Aaron Rodgers, while he did not have a great game, 182 yards and a passing touchdown, he did not throw a pick. As we all know, Aaron Rodgers has been really inconsistent this season. He's had 4 straight games with less than 250 passing yards. The past 2 games, he's had less than 200. He's been battling rib injuries, a thumb injury, but they are on bye in week 14, so he's got just a little bit of time to heal up. He does have really good matchups for the fantasy playoffs with the Rams, the Dolphins, and the Vikings. Can you guys start Aaron Rodgers in the fantasy playoffs, Superflex or 1QB?
Sure. Superflex, you have to start him. He's almost a must start in Superflex. He's definitely a top 20 quarterback. And 1QB, looks like this dude's turning it on. Now, the biggest concern here is he does have that injury, and there's talks about shutting him down for the rest of the season if they get knocked out of playoff contention, which the Packers are likely to get knocked out of playoff contention. So if that happens, just be careful picking up Aaron Rodgers as your rest of season starter, relying on him, because I wouldn't be shocked. He's not happy with this organization. He is expected not to play there next year, whether that's somewhere else or just not playing in the league. And there's a very real chance he just doesn't play once they're eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the matchups, his matchups going forward aren't the best. He's got the LA Rams, and he's got Miami, then Minnesota. It's not the most fantastic. It's not the worst matchups, but it's also not the best. So I think he'll likely just be this QB2 range that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. For the running backs the rushers, not necessarily running backs, because Christian Watson did have a 46-yard touchdown run. Aaron Jones had a shin injury, left the game for a little bit, but A.J. Dillon finally came alive. 18 carries, 93 yards. He rushed for 5.2 yards per carry and a touchdown. Got some usage in the passing game as well, with 3 catches on 3 targets and 26 yards. He led the team in carries and rushing yards for the second, and he scored for the second straight game. Another guy who's been a pretty big disappointment, but he's got back-to-back finishes with over 17 PPR points. And even when Aaron Jones was cleared from injury, they rode the hot hand. Aaron Jones was sitting on the sideline because A.J. Dillon just looked good. So similar question to the Aaron Rodgers. They do have a bye in week 14, but are you starting A.J. Dillon in the fantasy playoffs?
It's all going to depend on what your options are. He's not going to get 18 carries every game, right? Aaron Jones was injured in this game. He was limited by this injury. So, you have to take this performance with a grain of salt. But yeah, we've always known that A.J. Dillon can do this. This is why he was so hyped coming into the offseason, is because people saw him do this.
His delicious thighs.
That too.
I'll repeat my answer in case anyone missed it. No, I will not be starting AJ Dillon in the fantasy playoffs. Don't buy this feels like an anomaly performance over the past couple weeks. He hasn't been this involved. And you know what? It kind of fits the narrative that we've been talking about here. The reason AJ Dillon has been bad is because the Packers have been bad. The Packers have not been up big in games. They haven't been able to get this running game going. They haven't been able to support two fantasy relevant running backs. And I'm not going to sit here and say that the Packers are going to turn it around, which I think is what would be required for AJ Dillon to find this continued success, because Aaron Jones is still going to be their lead back when healthy, I believe. This isn't like a passing of the guard. This is like JL said, a hot hand and the guy who came in and took on an extended role because of the injury to Aaron Jones. Yeah, so I'm not moving it that way. And you lose a week because of the bye week next week anyways.
Right. Yep. And that's, just an extra week for Aaron Jones to get healthy. I'm with you guys. I feel like if you're throwing A.J. Dillon in your lineups, you're just chasing points, and that generally does not work out in your favor. For the receivers for the Packers, Christian Watson just continues to score touchdowns. That's all this guy does. 6 targets. He was tied with Allen Lazard for the lead. 3 receptions, 48-yard. Allen Lazard had an okay game, but this is pretty much what he's done this year. It's 5 catches on 6 targets, 67 yards. If he has a touchdown, you're okay. But Lazard has somewhat been a disappointment, I'd say. Not anybody else you're really interested in from the pass catchers. Aaron Jones, involved in the passing game, like always. 5 catches on 5 targets. Like I said, Christian Watson just keeps doing it. He's continued his touchdown onslaught. He caught 1, rushed for 1. Over the past 4 weeks, he's averaging 6 targets a game, 78 yards per game. He scored 8 touchdowns over the past 4 games. He's been a top 10 wide receiver in each of those games. Is he a must start from this for the fantasy playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, probably at this point. He just can't stop scoring touchdowns. So ride that hot hand, baby.
I forgot to listen to the player that you said, and so I was hoping JL would say his name out loud.
Christian Watson.
I was wondering why you were looking at me like that.
I was like, and say the name of the guy that you're talking about.
That guy, is he good?
I mean, who else on the Packers can't help but score touchdowns?
Here's what I'm going to tell you what happened. I heard that part.
Mercedes Lewis.
And then Justin Fields' name caught my eye on this sheet, and I just started thinking about Justin Fields, and I started thinking about that touchdown
That's understandable.
run. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, where am I? I'm not watching Justin Fields run a touchdown in. Who are you guys? What are we talking about? And Christian Watson, you just play him at this point. I'm done not playing him. I've been the guy saying, hold off. He can't sustain this. He can't sustain this. But he's an integral part of this offense, and Aaron Rodgers likes him. And this is one of the few quarterbacks in the league. Once they've gained that trust, I think you just roll with the players that he's chucking the ball to. He likes Christian Watson. Christian Watson keeps scoring touchdowns. Put him in your lineups.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. JL, I think you said something that you said that I don't want to let slip through the cracks. Don't be afraid to ride the hot hand at this time of the year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sony Michel were guys that came out of nowhere last year, got super hot, and led a lot of teams to championships. So I think that's something you can't be afraid to do just because he struggled earlier in the year. It's everybody gets caught up on draft capital and I got to start this guy because I drafted him this high. But Christian Watson, man, he just looks absolutely phenomenal. Justin Fields had a very Justin Fields day. Did not throw any touchdowns, but he did throw for 254 yards. He also rushed for 71 yards and a touchdown. He looked pretty good after battling the shoulder injury. It wasn't a dislocated shoulder; it was a separated shoulder, I believe, is what they said. Looked pretty good. I think there's no concern for starting him the rest of the year unless they decide to shut him down, which I don't see happening, but it is possible. But if he's out there, you're starting him.
Yeah, and I know he's got those tough playoff matchups against the Eagles and the Bills. I'm still starting Justin Fields. It doesn't matter to me. Look at what this dude does on the ground. He did it again today. 55-yard rushing touchdown. We talk about these players that are rushing threats. Don't get me wrong, Jalen Hurts, great rushing quarterback. Josh Allen, great rushing quarterback. But when you look at those rushing touchdowns that those guys are getting, they're mostly goal line carries. They're mostly getting those 1, 2, 3-yard touchdowns right there at the goal line. Justin Fields is consistently making plays in the open field to score these long rushing touchdowns. He might be the best rushing quarterback in the NFL right now, just with what we're seeing and how he uses that ability. Like, I'm not saying he's a better QB than Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts, but what he's done this year, he's been the most threatening rushing quarterback on the ground since he started playing like this around week 5.
I think
I
the
wonder if
only
that
guy
has to do with like game scheming too. Like defenses, these teams, they know kind of what they're going to expect with Lamar and Jalen Hurts a bit now, right? Because they've seen it a bunch. Justin Fields, we haven't seen it. This is a newer thing. I wonder how much that plays into it.
Surely it plays a role. The more tape they have on a player, the more they're going to be able to prepare for him, right, Jail?
Right. And especially like rushing quarterbacks, it feels like that's that's a specific situation where when they expect it, you can limit it.
That being said, the Bears' top receivers are N'Keal Harry, Equinemius St. Brown.
Listen to these names.
So I don't think teams are too scared of the receiving game there in Chicago either.
That's exactly what I was going to go into. I think Justin Fields has looked phenomenal, but they keep losing games. And I think part of it is because what you just said, Simon, he hasn't had the receiving weapons. He hasn't had the big passing games where he's able to lead the Bears to a victory through the air. So teams are like, okay, if you want to run, that's fine, as long as we win the game. I'm with you. Yeah, the highest, most targets on the team was Cole Kmet with 7. So he had 6 catches, 72 yards. Equinemius St. Brown that led the team in receiving yards with 85 yards. Yeah, you're not going to get too excited about that. The only other guy I'm really excited about on the Bears is David Montgomery. He looked pretty good again today. He's getting the volume, 14 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown, and he got usage through the air as well. He had 5 targets, 4 catches for a whopping 6 yards. So more excited about that in PPR leagues, but somebody that I think can finish the season strong.
Yeah, with Khalil Herbert on the IR, David Montgomery's an every week start for the most part. Depends on your options, but that running back landscape gets gross. It's going to be hard to imagine a team where he's not starting.
Yeah.
We had a question in here from Jake. Well, not a question, just some fantasy grieving. And this is a place for fantasy grieving. He said Waddle and Walker injuries screwed my fantasy this week and robbed my projected win. Went from 95% down to 22%.
Yeah, I feel that. It was Lamar Jackson for me. It was Lamar Jackson.
Simon, I was telling Simon before we started, league that I needed to win this week to get in the playoffs when I'm in with JL, the flex leagues. I think I just got knocked out because I had Waddle, I had Walker, I also had Jimmy G and Joe Mixon. So yeah, not great, Bob. It's I feel your pain. Misery loves company. So if you need a hug, come on over. I'll give you a big bear hug. We'll talk it out.
Fantasy is a lot of skill and a lot of luck. There's just as much luck mixed in there. You need things to go your way, especially in a game like football where it's so individual score heavy, right? Like touchdowns make this even a higher variance game as opposed to maybe something like basketball where there's a lot more statistics to go around in a single game. Geek Hippie in here said, sup everybody. What's up, Geek? Welcome in. And DJ letting us know he just put $10 on Jelani plus 700 for that anytime touchdown.
Nice.
So Jay, he's rolling with you. He put a little sprinkle on there.
That's what I'm talking about. Get it, DJ. Now I have to stay up and watch the game. I was excited because my matchups were finished. I could go to bed early, not watch it. Now I got to watch and see if Jelani Woods gets a touchdown.
Our friend Soft Balzac is back. What's up,
hello.
Mr. Balzac? I believe that's Swedish, if I'm not mistaken. He wanted to know, do we know how bad Walker's injury is? Jay, do we have any update on how bad Walker's injury is?
I can look at real quick, but as we started the show, no injury update other than he was out for the game. He did walk back. He didn't have to be carted back, so take that for what it's worth.
It's better than being carted back, but it doesn't necessarily mean he'll be back ready to go next week. We'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. Guys, this next game, one that I expected to go a little bit differently, was the Detroit Lions Jacksonville Jaguars game. The Lions ended up winning 40-14 in this one. The Jaguars just couldn't quite get it going. And Jay, I think a big part of that is something you mentioned earlier in the show was Trevor Lawrence's injury relatively early into this game. It looked really bad. I did not expect to see him come back out onto the field, but he was out there. But I definitely think the dude's hurting. I don't think he came out perfectly healthy. He looked like he was in pain out there on the field. He finished the day 17 for 31, 179 yards and a touchdown, adding 32 yards on the ground as well. This is kind of a cool-off game after he's been on a bit of a tear through the previous weeks. JL, if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, if he's able to get right going into next week, Is he a quarterback you're trusting down the stretch in fantasy? Because he's quietly been a top 10 guy so far this season.
Yeah, he's been good. Talked about the Jaguars schedule being fantastic. The playoff schedule rest of the season for him, at least fantasy playoffs, not actual playoffs. If he's healthy, yeah, I think he is a great option to plug and play.
Yeah, I'm still rolling with Trevor Lawrence. This was a rough game, but he was injured. You got to still roll with him. He's been killing it for fantasy. This was Travis Etienne's first game back. He didn't miss games, but he did go out injured last week. Wasn't sure if he was going to play this week. He ended up playing. He had 13 carries for 54 yards and added 3 receptions on 3 targets for 12 yards through the air as well. Again, another disappointing performance. I think this is a bit of a theme here on the Jacksonville side. There were a couple bright spots. But Jay, Travis Etienne has been a fantasy star coming out after they traded James Robinson away, taking this lead back job. Are you still trusting Travis Etienne in your fantasy playoffs, even on a bad Jacksonville team?
Absolutely. He's been a stud, and the Detroit Lions defense, especially against the running back, has played really well this year. They've been a tough matchup for fantasy purposes. I don't take much away from it, especially with, Trevor Lawrence going out early. It's just a game that just kind of got weird real quick for the Jaguars and their offense. Etienne was coming back from the injury as well. So I have no concerns with Etienne long-term. I'm plugging him in next week.
Now, and for the receivers for Jacksonville, Christian Kirk must start in my eyes every single week. He's Trevor Lawrence's favorite target on this team, and he gets it done. JL, do you disagree with that, or do you think Christian Kirk's one of those players it's plug and play?
Didn't you just say that he's plug and play? Are you asking if I disagree with that?
Yeah, I was asking, do you disagree or do you agree with the statement that he's plug and play?
Sorry. I thought you said one thing and then just contradicted yourself.
He's plug and play. So
I'm tired.
I'm pretty asleep. I'm with you, Simon. If Trevor Lawrence is still playing going forward, I'm throwing Christian Kirk in my lineup unless I have like a top 10 option at wide receiver. He's a solid wide receiver too rest of the season. He's been that this season and the opportunities are there for him.
I mean, to your point, Dale, I think he's been more than a wide receiver 2 this season. He's the wide receiver 10 on the season so far. Like, he's been a top 12 wide receiver on the season. And it's like people don't even care you play Christian Kirk. Now, the other receiving options in Jacksonville, Evan Ingram was the one that hit the jackpot today. 7 targets, 5 receptions, 30 yards, and a touchdown. Got that touchdown to make you happy. But when I look at this receiving core here, we had some big Zay Jones weeks. We've had some big Marvin Jones weeks. We've had some big Evan Ingram weeks. I'm starting to think it's just spread a little bit too thin after Christian Kirk for me to reliably pick any of these players to start week in, week out. JL, are there any of the secondary receiving options, Evan Ingram at tight end, Marvin Jones or Zay Jones at receiver, that stand out to you above the others as a player you're trying to pick up in fantasy?
I mean, Zay Jones has been very solid for fantasy purposes. I picked him up in a few leagues where I needed wide receiver, and he's been solid. Today, it wasn't there, but you have to expect that from Zay Jones, who's the wide receiver 2 in this offense, which is semi-inconsistent, at least in the passing game. I think he's a fine flex option.
Jay, what about you? Are you agreeing that Zay Jones kind of separates himself from the other guys, or is this a mess?
Yeah, no, I think he separates, especially, he's got tied for the second most targets on the team. We've seen him do it this season. He's had some big games. It's definitely disappointing today, but again, Trevor Lawrence went out. You're happy to see that he is higher in the target share for this team. I think he's a flex play, nothing more.
On the Detroit side of this ball, we're going to start with what Eric is asking here. Is Swift back? We did see Swift come into this game and get more carries than Jamal Williams, 14 carries for 62 yards, and got that touchdown on the ground as well. Then he added 4 receptions for 49 yards off 6 targets through the air. A pretty good fantasy day, 21.2 PPR fantasy points for DeAndre Swift. So, JL, I posed to you what Eric posed to us. Is Swift back?
Swift is back. I mean, we had this conversation last week. I believe it was on our morning show, which was Jamal Williams taking over that DeAndre Swift role. And I think this just goes to show that he hasn't, especially in the minds of the most important people to answer that question, which is the
Wiggles.
Coaches and the Wiggles. Yeah, also the Wiggles. Can you name a single Wiggle?
Blue Wiggle.
Damn it.
Yeah, sorry. Gotcha. It's like Gatorade. You can just say the color.
Right. You just say blue and you're good.
But yeah, I mean, Jamal Williams still a factor, still startable in fantasy. I think he's a solid RB2 going forward. That the red zone work he's been getting, the goal line work he's been getting has been fantastic. Not in this game, but in general. I think they're going to keep doing that. But what we're seeing is DeAndre Swift getting better, right? He's healing week after week. He's getting a little bit healthier and healthier, and they're just going to keep shifting that towards DeAndre Swift because he's an explosive player.
This is the game I was waiting for. I did not want to play DeAndre Swift until I saw it because he'd been on the field for a couple weeks now, but not totally healthy. I believe them now. I believe now that DeAndre Swift is back. He's fully off the injury report. He got more carries than Jamal Williams in this game, 6 targets as well. I'm starting DeAndre Swift down the stretch. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys said. Jamal Williams does lead the NFL in touchdowns, but so many of those touchdowns have come when Amon-Ra St. Brown has get tackled at the 1, or DeAndre Swift breaks off a long run and then has to come off because he's winded. So, yeah, I think it's always been DeAndre Swift's backfield. He's just finally healthy, like you guys said. He's definitely the more dynamic player. While I do think Jamal Williams is an every week start because he gets that red zone work, DeAndre Swift is a whole nother level and somebody that I'm excited to see what he can do down the stretch.
Real quick, one other player we got to hit on here. Amon-Ra St. Brown. All I got to say is, yeah, that dude is killing it. He's doing it again. He's going to win some more people fantasy leagues, I feel like. 12 targets, 11 receptions, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns, coming down with 34.6 PPR fantasy points. So what I wanted to do with you guys was play an Amon-Ra St. Brown name game. Who would you prefer rest of season? So I've got some names prepared, and Jay, we'll start with you. Amon-Ra St. Brown or Mike Evans, rest of season?
St. Brown, not even close.
JL?
Yep.
St. Brown? What about Amon-Ra St. Brown or Amari Cooper, rest of season?
St. Brown.
St. Brown? Okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown or T. Higgins, rest of season?
St. Brown.
That's a good one, but I think I got to go. Yeah, I got to go St. Brown, too.
Okay. What about a player we just talked about? Amon-Ra St. Brown or Christian Kirk, rest of season?
St. Brown.
Okay. One last one. I'm curious where that line is. Amon-Ra St. Brown or CeeDee Lamb, rest of season?
Ooh.
I'm going St. Brown.
I'm going to
go.
go.
I just said that. I can't believe I just said that, but yeah.
Uh-oh, am I frozen? Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, but you look like a mannequin.
I'm going to go St. Brown.
St. Brown. I think that's where I draw the line. I think that's where I go CeeDee Lamb. But when I was putting this together, the names I was originally looking at, I was a little bit further down. I was like, Tyler Lockett, no. Michael Pittman, no. It was amazing how quickly Amon-Ra St. Brown got up into those top 7, 8 wide receivers for rest of season.
For it to even be a conversation with CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown says everything you need to know about the guy. It's just absolutely phenomenal what he's done on this offense. And people are concerned with Jamo coming back, but man, I think it's only going to open things up for this offense. They play completely different roles. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is locked in. He's the new Wes Welker, that middle of the field guy, Cooper Kupp of last year, that just, especially in PPR leagues, just absolutely destroys it.
One last thing I want to hit on from this game. It was Jameson Williams' NFL debut, and coming back from that injury, it was expected that he wouldn't be too involved, and that was the case. 1 target, 0 receptions, 0 yards, didn't turn it into much. But Jay, are you holding on to Jameson Williams in fantasy at all, or are you dropping him?
I think you have to hold on to him. The upside that he has, I definitely, he's a situation. I hope you didn't have to start him today because they were already said that he was going to have limited snaps coming off the injury that he did. It's going to take some time, but as much as Detroit is throwing the ball, you have to hang on to him. If he's out there on any waiver wires, pick him up, throw him on your bench. His upside is well worth it.
All I wanted to talk about from that game, but we have another game to hit on here. The Cleveland Browns winning this one 27-14, and you would think there would be more touchdowns on the box score for the Browns, but you got to scroll down to find those. This was a weird one.
This is a super weird game. I got to admit, thought Deshaun Watson would come back and be a little bit more explosive in this game than he was. It's funny. Marie and I were in Cincinnati this weekend, and we're in the Uber, and there's guys got sports radio on. And he starts we're just listening to him talk, and the sports radio host starts talking about Deshaun Watson starts talking about Deshaun Watson, then our Uber driver starts telling us how he's related to him. He's like his ex-wife's cousin or something. And so we're sitting there just talking about, you know, Deshaun Watson and the whole thing and the family, like his interactions, all this sort of stuff. But
That's
I
cool.
thought Deshaun Watson would have a little bit less rust. He absolutely had some rust in this game, but really, I think the main thing that happened in this game is the Browns defense just went off. They went off. They forced a bunch of turnovers. There were 4 turnovers by the Houston Texans in this game. A bunch of defensive scoring, and they rushed a lot. They ended up rushing a lot. And so Deshaun Watson didn't end up really having an explosive game. He had 12 completions on 22 attempts, 131 yards, one really bad interception, which was clearly Russ. He just completely ignored a safety in the end zone and got it picked off in the end zone. So that was unfortunate. What did you guys see from Deshaun Watson's debut back? Are you at all concerned? You think this is a case of Russ and he'll kick it back next week, or what?
I want to see another game because this game went, I think, exactly how maybe was expected from a game script plan, right? Like if you looked at the matchup against the Houston Texans and you look at the roster that the Browns have, they've got a quarterback coming back who hasn't started in 2 years. They have arguably the best running back in the league in Nick Chubb, and they're going against the Houston Texans who have been ripped apart by opposing running backs all season long. It makes sense to me that they ran the ball 38 times in this game and only had Deshaun Watson throw at 22. He was rusty. They've got the Bengals next week. I'm a little bit more curious how he looks in that game, a game that I expect them to be down in. I'm not going to be the experiment, though. I'm not going to be the guinea pig plugging Deshaun Watson into my lineups in 1 quarterback leagues in week 14. I'm not doing it. If you want to hold him on your bench, that's fine, but I'm cool dropping him.
What about you, Jay? What did you see from Deshaun Watson today?
I think you guys hit the nail on the head. He had the rust. You know, you definitely saw some of the magic from him, you know, the way he's able to move in the pocket, some of the passes that he was able to make. But he also threw some in the dirt. He had some worm burners, you know, throwing it at Amari Cooper's feet a few times. And something, you know, you have to take into consideration, too. He doesn't play a single game the rest of the season indoors, where, you know, he had a lot of success in Houston indoors. So 2 years, you know, coming back from not playing for 2 years, on a new team, a new offensive scheme, still learning the players, outdoors, you know, in Cincinnati, in Cleveland, Washington, and Pittsburgh. Well, week 18 is Pittsburgh. So I hope you don't play week 18 in fantasy, but I'm not too excited about putting him in my lineups. I would prefer not to unless, you know, you have no other options. But 1 QB, I'd drop him, and Superflex, I would really look elsewhere until we see the Deshaun Watson of a couple of years ago back.
DJ in here with some breaking news before we move on, saying Garoppolo broken left foot, out for the remainder of the season.
Damn.
That is rough.
Brock
that is
Purdy.
Rough. Brock Purdy, mystery irrelevant. The last pick of the NFL draft, Brock Purdy. Who's irrelevant now?
Calling it now. They're going to sign Cam Newton.
Ooh, that would be interesting. Yeah,
Calling
what do you guys
now.
What does this do to the San Francisco 49ers playoff chances?
I mean, I think they still make the playoffs, but if Brock Purdy's their starting quarterback, they're not making it very far.
That's what I mean. How well are they going to fare in the playoffs?
I mean, you know what? I say that, but like Tim Tebow and the corpse of Peyton Manning made it to the Super Bowl, right? Like this team has an incredible defense. They've got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle on the offensive side of the ball, a good offensive line, arguably the best defense in the NFL. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh. If Brock Purdy can just be a game manager out there, then they could still make some noise. They could win a game or two, but it takes them away from the contention of being the best team in their division.
I have the best outcome. The best outcome would be they sign Colin Kaepernick back to the team. He takes them to the Super Bowl. Glory to Colin Kaepernick. Let's go.
That would be wild. The televisions would explode if that happened. That would be on another level. And I live for a narrative. I keep saying that like the NFL should just fully embrace like the reality television aspect of the sport because I love the storylines. I want to see all the storylines.
I'm with you, Simon.
Jimmy Garoppolo only had 4 attempts, so even with that being the case, they beat the Miami Dolphins 33-17. You know, obviously it's not going to be the same, but Jimmy G was, a glorified game manager, more so than that, but it's not like he was going to carry the team on his back. I still think they could go all the way with the way this team is built. I would much rather see them sign somebody else, a vet off the couch, but stranger things have happened in the NFL.
You heard it from Jay. Put in your Super Bowl MVP Brock Purdy bets now.
$700. Put it down.
Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl, so I mean,
scared money don't make money, says Jay.
that's what they say. Michael Scott, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky.
Grim says, bring back Trent Dilfer. You're going a little further back there.
Super Bowl champion.
Back into this Browns-Texans matchup, Kareem Hunt had a pretty good game. 9 carries, 56 yards, 3 targets, 2 receptions, 18 yards, 9.4 fantasy points. Pretty solid day for Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb hit a ton of carries, ton of opportunities, only 8 points. So 17 carries, 80 yards, no touchdowns. Obviously, Nick Chubb's still the guy there. I think this is just a no touchdown game. And unfortunately, guys like Nick Chubb who don't get targeted a ton and PPR formats aren't going to have that same upside. On the receiving side, Donovan Peoples-Jones, he got his 13.4 fantasy points on 3 freaking targets. 3 targets, 3 receptions, 44 yards. Donovan Peoples-Jones he's been making it happen. He had that he had a punt return for a touchdown in this game too, and he looked so good. You guys see that?
It was beautiful.
I did not see that.
It was beautiful. Donovan Peoples-Jones looks electric out there. And he has throughout the season. I'm excited for him down the stretch.
Yeah, me too. I think there's not a ton to take away from this guy. Obviously, Amari Cooper kind of had just an okay game here. 8 fantasy points, 9 targets, 4 receptions, 40 yards. I think this is a situation where they didn't pass a ton, right? We mentioned that at the top of this recap here. 22 times. It's not very much, and that's not typical of a Deshaun Watson offense. So I do expect that to change.
When you score 3 touchdowns through defense or special teams, your offense changes. Your offense changes. You're not taking risks. You didn't have to do that to win this game. They scored 27 points without an offensive touchdown here. So take everything from this game with a bit of a grain of salt. Game script was weird.
Game script was very weird. On the Texan side of this, Dameon Pierce, who coming into this week was not really doing so hot. He was kind of stalling out, a little pitter patter from Dameon Pierce. And a lot of people were concerned. Coming into the week, we were talking about how Cleveland was such a good matchup for running backs. And Dameon Pierce, he delivered. It wasn't overwhelming, 12.5 fantasy points, 18 carries, 73 yards. But that's solid for a fantasy football running back. Are you, Simon, I know you earlier in the week, you were talking about how this is a slam dunk matchup for Dameon Pierce. Is this underwhelming for you? Does this make you any more concerned rest of the season for him?
You hope for more, right? You want that touchdown, but I'm seeing everything here that gives me reason to believe Dameon Pierce is the guy we think he is. Over 4 yards a carry, 18 carries. He's the lead back on this Houston Texans team, and he's rather efficient most of the time whenever he's running the ball. I wish he had gotten in for a touchdown. Then we'd be talking about Dameon Pierce is back. It was a bad 2 games. It's underwhelming if you expected an RB top 5 running back performance, but this is good. This is good for a running back.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that 17 carries is solid. That's what you want. If you can get that much opportunity, that's great. Or 18, I'm sorry.
That being said, the problem with Dameon Pierce is when they go down big, he doesn't get the work. When they're down big, they move away from the running game, and we've seen that time and time again. The Texans' next 3 matchups, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Titans. It is not looking pretty in weeks 14, 15, and 16 for Dameon Pierce. So while this gives me hope, those matchups are a little bit tough for them. It's not the game scripts that you're hoping for.
Yeah.
It would be brutal. We had a question in here that I wanted to hit on. It is time sensitive. Edward wanted to know, should I start Ezekiel Elliott or Alvin Kamara full PPR? I'm rolling Zeke here. What about you, Jay?
Man, this is tough. I think you still have to go Zeke. As much as I poo-pooed him, Kamara just hasn't been reliable, and Zeke has.
And that matchup for Kamara against the Bucs is a very tough matchup for a player that hasn't been doing it anyways. JL, are you agreeing with us? Is it a triple Zeke, or are you rolling Kamara out there?
I'm going to go Kamara here. The reason being that Alvin Kamara doesn't have a Tony Pollard behind him.
That's true. Or in front of him. Or to the side of him. Well, he's probably directionally somewhere related to Alvin Kamara.
They're on the earth.
I hope so.
Tony Pollard in space.
Woo! Okay, Tony Pollard in space or Zeke on Earth? Who are you starting?
Ooh,
Tony Pollard in
Tony
space.
Pollard in space. Yeah, that's just a
Yeah.
totally easy question.
Yeah, that's a really easy question. How are they going to stop him?
Yeah, you can't.
You can't. All of a sudden, Tony Pollard through the uprights. The visuals of this are just incredible.
You just slowly see him just running and getting smaller and smaller in the night sky. And then
How
it's
I'm
just,
picturing it is Dak just chucks the ball up, and everyone's like, "Where the hell is that going?" And then all of a sudden,
He's
you see
into
Tony
space.
Pollard,
Dragon
like a
Ball
comet.
Z style.
Yeah, like a
Like
comet
Thor.
flying down from Earth with the Dragon Ball Z flames around him and grabs the ball and just creates a crater in the end zone. Touchdown, salvation pot, celebration.
NFL Blitz returning
And they-
next fall.
they'd still get fined for jumping in the pond.
And they would still get fined for jumping in the pot. Guys, we're going to move on to our next game here. The New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings face today. The Vikings coming out on top in a very close game, 27-22.
I heard that in Lizzo's voice because they were playing that at my cousin's wedding this weekend, that Lizzo song, whenever he said Minnesota Vikings.
New man on the Minnesota Vikings. Damn it, JL. Now that's going to be stuck in my head all night. You son of a... It took me even a second. I could have just let it go and ignored you, but I was like, what is he talking... Oh.
We waited just a little bit, and it sprouted in there. Now, congratulations. That's going to be in there for the rest of the night, probably the rest of the week. But Mike White, 31 completions on 57 attempts, threw for 369 yards, did not throw any touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks. He should have had a touchdown. He should have had a game-winning touchdown at the end of the game. Braxton Berrios dropped a ball in the end zone. But you have to be encouraged from a fantasy perspective. What you saw out of Mike White, he chucked the ball, getting everybody involved. Garrett Wilson had 15 targets. Corey Davis had 10 targets. Garrett Wilson, 8 catches, 162 yards. He did not have a touchdown. Even got Zonovan Knight involved in the passing game as well with 5 catches on 5 targets, 28 yards. I think Mike White in Superflex leagues is pretty much locked into it every week start until otherwise. What do you guys think?
I want to see it next week. He's had 2 good matchups for quarterbacks.
That is true.
The past 2 weeks have been plus matchups. Now, that being said, he made a little bit more of a believer out of me today. He looks good out there on the field, and it looks like this offense is excited to have him in there. You know what I mean? And that makes a difference. Like, the team is supporting Mike White, and he looks like a good football player. That being said, the Bills are a different beast than their past 2 opponents, than the Vikings and the Bears. So let's see what Mike White can do against the Bills next week. See if that magic continues.
Here's the thing. Mike White's not going to pass 57 times going forward in every game. 57 times is an absurdly high amount of times to pass the ball.
Those are Joe Flacco numbers.
Numbers. Against Minnesota, I can see it makes sense. I wish that he would have turned 57 attempts into more than 17.4 fantasy points, but I think this is solid. And if they continue using him, then he'll be great. I don't know that he's an every week start, and I don't think that he is. That I'm willing to just throw him in that category after 2 weeks, but I think he's a solid start in Superflex leagues.
And Dustin down here reminding us, the Bills next week, the Mike White killers.
Yeah, I would not be starting next week.
They killed the hype for Mike White last year in a 3-interception game, if I remember correctly. We were all hyped on Mike White.
Away the key.
And then all of a sudden we forgot about him until this year again. So
Yeah,
I'm nervous.
Fantasy playoffs, Detroit, Jacksonville, and Seattle.
It's hot. We had some questions in here that I want to hit. These are time sensitive. Kyle in here said full PPR down 16. Rachaad White versus New Orleans or Michael Pittman at Dallas. I know we hit a similar question earlier. JL, where are you rolling here?
I'm going with Rachaad White.
And Jay, Rachaad White for you as well, right?
Yep, Rachaad White.
It's going to be Rachaad White for me as well. The New Orleans matchup is average, right? It's not an easy matchup for opposing running backs. They're in the top half of the league, but they're not one of those don't start your running backs against them kind of plays. And Rachaad White looks like the dude. I like Michael Pittman as a play tonight, though. He's a high-level wide receiver 2 for me. But Rachaad White's also in that tier. You get a little bit more safety out of the running back there.
Can't trust Matt Ryan the way he's looked.
Grim wanted to know Olave or Landry in full PPR. JL, which way you rolling here?
I'm going Olave. You got to start Olave week in, week out. He's the leader on that team.
Yep, it's Olave for me. He's borderline don't bench. What about you, Jay?
Sweep it.
Now, a question for you guys. I'm going to mix two of these up. Michael Pittman or Chris Olave in full PPR?
Ooh, Olave.
No hesitation. Although,
Olave.
even though
It's
I was
close.
going to say he doesn't have Matt Ryan throwing him the ball, but he's got Andy Dalton throwing him the ball. But
Big
at this
upgrade.
point, it kind of looks like a big upgrade.
So should I make that switch right now? Michael Pittman to Chris Olave in the Guillotine League. Last player.
I would, but it's so close. Follow your heart.
Okay. Michael Pittman, I love you. I'm leaving you in there. Maria in here said, I hate sweeping. Yeah, sweeping's the worst. Just absolutely awful.
Sweeping or laundry, Simon?
Sweeping, without a doubt, sweeping. Actually, I got a new broom, and it's changed the sweeping game. It's made it enjoyable.
Nice.
Jay, what else did we have going on in this game? Mike White had to throw the ball somewhere.
I was still caught up on that sweeping conversation, but we can go back to the game, I guess. So threw the ball. Garrett Wilson, like I said, 15 targets. Corey Davis had 10 targets, 5 catches on 85 yards. He started the season pretty decent, got injured, and finally seems to be getting healthy. He was second on the team in targets, 5 catches, 85 yards. The Jets outside of Buffalo have a good schedule coming up. Any interest at all in Corey Davis as potential flex play down the stretch?
Sure. It seems like Mike White likes him. We've seen it from him before in this Jets offense. I'll pick him up and play him over guys like Elijah Moore for sure. Elijah Moore tricked me last week. I saw just enough from him last week to get some hope. I was like, ooh, maybe I
multiple places today, unfortunately,
I started him in one league as well, Jay. I was like,
3.7 fantasy points.
Gross.
Got that touchdown. I'm like, maybe, just maybe he's back. Yeah.
Nope.
Completely droppable. But Zonovan Knight did get the most work in this backfield, 15 carries. The next highest was 4 from James Robinson. I got 90 yards, 6 yards per carry. And like I said earlier, he did get some usage in the passing game. 5 catches for 5 yards. Excuse me, not for 5 yards. 5 catches on 5 targets for 28 yards. He had 14.3 PPR points. We know the schedule that's coming up for him. Do you guys think that Knight has carved himself out a role in this offense, even when Michael Carter comes back?
It remains to be seen when Michael Carter comes back, but this type of usage is what you absolutely want to see. I mean, this is baller status. 15 carries, 5 targets. That's fantastic. That's high-end RB2 numbers. And if he's able to, those didn't turn into touchdowns this game. He's able to convert those into some touchdowns. He's going to be fantastic.
I feel like a hater. I feel like a hater in this situation. I just don't trust Bam Knight. I don't trust Bam Knight. And whenever Michael Carter comes back, they trust Michael Carter in this offense. I think this is a flash. I like Zonovan Knight. He's a spot start if Michael Carter is out, but when he comes back, I'm hands off.
I think I lean more towards JL's side. I
think I'm in the minority here.
Yeah, I think you are, but that's okay. Because we all, that's what makes this fun. Just having the different opinions.
Grimfan and DJ with you guys in here. We got Grimfan and DJ both going bam, bam. They're all about Zonovan Knight.
And I like him because he played high school football like an hour and a half away from where I live. So want to support the local guy. But on the Minnesota Vikings side, although he did start 0 for 5, Kirk Cousins had a okay game, 173 yards, a touchdown to Justin Jefferson. They were able to squeak out the win thanks to pretty solid game from Dalvin Cook as well. Justin Jefferson got some work in the backfield, but Dalvin Cook, 20 carries, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Pretty much what you expect out of the pass catchers for Minnesota at this point. TJ Hockenson, 6 targets. Justin Jefferson, 11 targets, 7 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown, although he had a disappointing game. There's going to be better days ahead. Justin Jefferson is an absolute stud. Outside of Justin Jefferson, there's really no pass catchers you're interested in other than TJ Hockenson.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it easy for fantasy, right? You start Dalvin Cook, you start Justin Jefferson, you start TJ Hockenson, and that's it.
You might want to start Alexander Madison after that twerk.
Yeah, maybe after the twerk. If you're in a PPT league, a point per twerk league, you can get some Madison in there. He was doing it dirty out there on the field.
That got me so good.
But I mean, that's also clear for fantasy, right? You hold on to Madison in case Dalvin Cook goes down. Like this Vikings team is a gift wrapped box to fantasy managers' decision making. There's no decisions to make. I guess Adam Thielen maybe, but you know what? That decision's been made. He's on my bench or on the waiver wire.
Yeah, we had a question in here from Super CMB Challengers asking Evans, Pittman, Olave, PPR sit 1. I think we were all on the Olave. No, Simon was on Pittman side, and we were all on the Olave side, but we didn't factor Evans in. Does Evans change anything for you guys?
This is sit 1, so we're starting 2 of these guys.
Oh, you're right. I think I'd be sitting Pittman out of this group. I think he's the one who's the most risk. He's the most likely to get shut down.
Marshawn Lattimore is playing for the Saints either. I could be wrong on that, but
I mean, that changes it. That's a major factor in this, right? Because narrative street or not, look at Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans' track record against each other. JL, our friend Coop brought it up on the morning show earlier this week. He pulled up every game Mike Evans has played against Marshawn Lattimore. He's got one above 20 PPR fantasy points, another one above 15, and then the rest are like 12, 10, 8, 4, 2, 0, 0. Marshawn Lattimore gets in his head and shuts him down. So if Lattimore's playing, I'll roll out Pittman and Olave. If Lattimore's not playing, I'll roll out Pittman and Evans.
And Lattimore suffered a really serious injury. He suffered a lacerated kidney and 2 broken ribs in week 5 like that. You have to believe that even if he's back and playing, he's going to be not the same Lattimore that we've seen.
Last thing that I can find is Coach Dennis Allen said, we'll see if he's playing. So
classic.
Take that for what it's worth.
Evans and Pittman for me then. Sit Olave. Throw Evans and Pittman out there. But it sounds like for you guys, it's Evans and Olave.
Yep.
I feel like we have to have a bet with this Olave and Pittman that
let's do it. You guys want to do an animal noise bet for next week?
Lock it in. PPR.
Sure. PPR, more points. Just straight up easy bet. PPR, more points. Michael Pittman versus Chris Olave.
Let's do it.
It's me versus the world. Just kidding. It's just me versus you two.
Scott Pilgrim versus the world.
And Super CMB saying, oh shit, is Lattimore out? Maybe. We're waiting to find out. We are waiting to find out if Lattimore is out. But based on what we're hearing, it does sound like it's out. Guys, we are approaching kickoff here of the Dallas Cowboys Indianapolis Colts game. Before we get to that, though, I wanted to get some score predictions. Someone in here earlier asked us for how we thought the score of this Dallas Cowboys Indianapolis Colts game is going to turn out. Just as a reminder, in case you forgot, the Cowboys are 10.5-point favorites at home in this game. And the over-under is set at 44.5 over there on the FanDuel Sportsbook. JL, what's the final score of this game? Oh, and let me correct it. The line is now moved. The Cowboys are 11.5-point favorites.
What's the over-under?
44.5.
44.5. I'll go with 28-21.
28-21. I didn't even have to ask unless you were just all of a sudden Jeff Saturday's biggest fan. Jay,
Sunday.
Where are you rolling here?
27-17 Cowboys.
27-17 Cowboys. So the Colts with a sneaky cover for Jay right there. And I'm going to say I think the Cowboys win this game pretty handily. I'll say the final score of this one, 30-14 Cowboys. 30-14, and that would be the world's worst under, sitting there at 44 on an over-under of 44.5. But that's where we're rolling right here.
I know you guys, this is a football show, but I wanted to give a shout out to GJ talking about Fred McGriff, the crime dog, getting elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So just a guy from my childhood, so that's pretty cool.
Yeehaw. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Fred McGriff.
DJ coming in hot, 56-7 Cowboys.
And I like Grim fan. The only person to predict a Colts win, 38-27. He's got that Jeff Saturday belief in him. Yeah, an 11-point win for the Colts. Grim fan, if that happens, you're a wizard. And Super CMB with the 28-17 Cowboys lock.
Let's go.
Lots of Cowboys love.
Come into the morning show tomorrow, and we'll celebrate whoever got the closest.
I got to remember all these. I'm screenshotting them right now so that we don't forget these scores right here. Guys, that is going to be it for us tonight. If you enjoyed hanging out here with us, go on over to our YouTube channel at Front Yard Fantasy. Check us out there. We have a ton of content. We will be live tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern time, breaking down these games that we just talked about right here. So come hang out with us bright and early in the morning. And if you're watching this video, enjoyed it, go and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to FanDuel on YouTube or following them on Twitch. And then check out all of their content creators over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. They're at FanDuel on all of them. Easy to find, easy to remember. Cowboys Colts is about to kick off, so we are going to head out and go watch that game. Enjoy your horse-related football game tonight. Until tomorrow, we are out of here. Adios, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you on